Hey, welcome to another
Hmm.
update on Archmage Rises. We are here as always with Nick, except when he takes off on me and goes to Alaska.
That's right. I'm here.
Now, we are having major problems trying to put this video update together. We're having video problems, we're having audio problems. So there's actually like a 2 second delay between when Nick stops talking and I don't know. It's probably going to overwrite my talking or something. Anyway, this is the best we could do right now. We're just going to forge ahead. And I'm sorry for the crappy low quality of this video, but it was this or nothing. Oh yeah, and you can't even see Nick's head because of our video problems, which hopefully we'll have figured out by next time, but we just couldn't figure it out. So anyways, it's just me. That's all you can see is me, and we're going to go ahead. Okay, so before we get going here with the game, two quick personal updates. So the first thing is about my health. I had another injection to the eye on Monday, and when I was talking with the doctor, she said that my recovery is both faster and better than average or than expected. So she thinks that
Yay.
that things are going very well and expects that I will continue to have vision going forward. So I still have to complete having 6 needles to the eye, and I've now had 4. So 2 more to go, and then hopefully no more needles to the eye. Now, in the last 2 weeks, I didn't have quite as much time as I had hoped because I had a big event in my life this week, which was my 19th wedding anniversary. 19 years ago, I managed to fool a girl into marrying me. And this is something that shall be celebrated each year because both sides of the family can't believe that it happened and it is still continuing. Yeah,
Hooray.
so I kind of joke with my father-in-law because he has 3 girls and I married the youngest, and the other 2 are divorced, and so I'm the only one who stuck around. And I tell him that it's too bad for him that I was the one that stuck around. he he went from 3 son-in-laws to just me, and that can only be disappointing. So I took my
Indeed.
wife to an island. I know we already live on an island, but we went to an island in Michigan that actually doesn't have any cars on it. They outlawed cars in the late 1800s and early 1900s. They outlawed cars, and so the whole place runs on horses and carriage and bicycles. You can bike everywhere on this little island, and it's just like a kind of Victorian romantic place called Mackinac Island. And so it's been my wife's dream to go there and stay overnight. She's been there many times for day trips, but to stay overnight. And so we stayed overnight at this hotel called the Grand Hotel, and she was super happy, and it was like the greatest thing ever. So Thomas continues to stay married, and that is good for the game and good for Thomas. And yeah, now we can get to the game. Okay, so the first thing to show you is if I go and I look at this map. You remember this map, Nick?
I
Okay.
remember it well.
The cities are now being placed based on a scoring algorithm as to how nice of a spot it is. So what you don't see is when we were up until this point, we were randomly plopping down cities anywhere. So you get one like right in the middle of the desert, or just surrounded by desert, and they would starve out. Now I have an algorithm for placing cities that actually looks to see where the best place is, and so this one was placed here because it's close to hills and forest. This one was placed here because it has water and a variety of terrain around it. We got swamp and grassland and desert, and I think it's on plains. And this one over here has a variety. And also they're not close together. And I finally fixed that bug of yours, Nick, where it puts a town on water. It will never put a town on water ever again. How do you feel about that?
Yay. I'm happy that somebody fixed it. Well, it was a trick.
That's right. Um, okay, so that algorithm was important to do because now, as time goes on and it goes to establish new settlements, they'll actually put settlements where there's resources that they need. Like, hey, we need metal, so they'll stick one where maybe they can get some metal out of the rock, that kind of stuff. The next thing is there's a missing person. There's a missing person threshold that like if somebody hasn't been home for a certain period of time, then they go missing, and then that creates a problem, and then it creates a quest for you to go and find them. And I've changed that now so it's not per person. There's like a different value for each person. So if somebody has the job like a trader where they go out and they're gone for several days and stuff, they will have a longer period of time that they're away. So it's just a little customized value.
That sounds good. So nobody misses the traders.
Yeah. So up until this point, everybody was like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in 2 days." And like, no matter who you are. And so I was like, well, that's not going to work. And so now it's much more reasonable. Like if you're a salesperson who's on the road and you're gone for 3 weeks and your wife doesn't see you, then you're like, well, that makes sense. But if you work at a convenience store and you don't come home at the end of your shift, like somebody's going to be real concerned. So it's now configurable by person. Okay, so I finally got the trading to work, and the trading has not worked in, I don't know, 8 months or something like that. So let's go into the trader. So we go to the marketplace, and here's the trader, and here is the display of all the goods that they are buying. If people have been following along, then they know that there is a stockpile in the town that is here, and the reason it's buying these things is because it's trying to fill up the stockpile, and based on how much stuff they have in their stockpile is what kind of pricing they'll give you. So I tried to use colors to show the player how good of a deal it is. So obviously if they are buying at 225%, that's pretty awesome, as opposed to 125%, and 130 is only slightly better than 125. So this basically shows the stuff that they're buying and importing into this town. Down below here is what they're selling, and the merchant sells everything that is in the town, except for some things which I'll explain in a second. But basically, if the town has it, you can buy it from the merchant. May not be at a very good price, but you can buy it. So look here, Nick. You can see garlic. You can buy garlic. So this was the reason that I had to do the item category. So things are listed by item category, and so something like metal has a category of metal, and then the only thing inside that category is metal. So that's like pretty basic and almost seems dumb. But when we have things like herbs, garlic is an herb, and lemongrass and ginger and a bunch of other things. So they are all affected by the same pricing. So herbs have a certain price. Same thing here with fish. We have two different fish, the narp and the goatfish. Those fall under the pricing of fish. And then up here we have the armor that is available. Now these are common armor. So I had this big problem, which was I want the player to be able to start a war between one town or another, or maybe goblins or fighting against a town or something like that. And I want the player to be able to profit off of that. So you should see that the price of weapons goes up, right? Like people are dying and being attacked and stuff. So the price of weapons goes up. Well, like how do you do that? Mm-hmm. If I treat each weapon separately, like here's a club and here's a staff and here's a sword. If those things are totally separate, then the trader and merchant for trying to stockpile things, they'll be like, oh no, we might have 10 short swords, but we have 0 two-handed swords. So two-handed swords, we really need those. And like they'll go out and demand them, which is like totally ridiculous. Like as long as you have some kind of weapon, you're like pretty good. And so that's why the item categorization helps. And so what I did was weapons. It looks at all the weapons as a whole and says, okay, we got a bunch of weapons. Doesn't really matter what they are. And that's why you see here that there's average stock level for all these things. And they are all selling at 37 because these are common weapons. So when the weaponsmith goes and makes a weapon, he will either make a masterwork weapon or he will make a regular common weapon. If he makes a regular common weapon, those are the things that people buy and sell and are used for trade. So you can buy swords in one place and sell swords in another place and make a little bit of money. Masterwork ones are the ones with all the cool buffs on them that the weaponsmith holds on to himself. He doesn't send those to the merchant. So if you want to buy the really good stuff, you got to go to the weaponsmith directly. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's describing a technical issue with a real economy. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I'm glad to hear
Absolutely.
that, because it was really hard to wrap my head around the problem and come up with a solution. So I hope the solution is workable. We'll see when people actually get Build 11 in their hands. The game has crashed, so I have to restart it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so game crashed, but now we're back, and here we are at the market again, and the stuff is basically similar to what it was, because I was still in starting position. Except we don't have two kinds of fish. Anyway, so we have common weapons, we have masterwork weapons. Okay, so now when we go to buy something, we can go buy, and then we choose our category. So we're going to buy, let's say, weapon. And it's like, okay, what kind of weapons do you want to buy? And they all have the same price because they're all common weapons. Like, it doesn't matter if they're hunting bows or spears or whatever. So I'll say hunting bows. Okay, so they only have one, so I'll buy as many as I can, which is one. And this is what I call a trading deal. So this is a deal that you're going to do for one weapon. Now, it really doesn't make a whole big difference with one, but anyways, I'm just going to agree. And I bought it, and there it shows up in my inventory. And look, I put in the capacity stuff, Nick, so the weights of things now matter. So we can see that here. I have one. Now, if I really want to do some trading, I need to buy an animal. And I can't buy any of these animals. And so another thing that I added to the game was that animals require animal handling skill. So this horse requires a 10. Now I don't have a 10, but I can cheat and give myself a bunch. Yeah, I'm a big cheater. Okay. So now I can buy a Yaka, or I can buy this horse, and the Yaka has way more speed. So I just bought an animal, and now the animal showed up here. Okay, so now I can really buy and sell stuff. So I'm going to buy food, and the only kind of food they have is food stuff. And so now I'm going to buy as many as I can, which is 66 pieces. So I do an auto calculation because I think people who are trading are always going to be buying and selling like as much as they possibly can. I don't know why you would buy just 5 of this and 5 of that and stuff. If you know where to sell it, like you would buy all you can and you go and dump it at the other place. But anyway, you can do the 1, 5, 10, 25 or whatever. But this auto calculates as many as you can afford and as many as you can fit, whatever is the smaller of the two. Oh, and it's actually kind of broken because they say they have at least 20 of these. They have more than 20, but she's saying, hey, I have at least 20 of them. So you don't have to worry about buying 1s and 2s. Okay, so I buy 66. Okay, so what it does is we're making a deal here. And have you noticed, Nick, that I put all the text into the NPC box now? We used to have a little separate window
Nice.
for all this. And
I like that.
It didn't work, and it didn't make any sense to me why we had a separate window. So now we have this. So the reason that you use the deal interface with the merchant is so that you could do this, which is to negotiate on the deal as a whole, right? So because it's a real-time economy, as soon as I buy this stuff, it's going to change the price. So right now, I'm buying it for 1 gold. Well, it can't go any cheaper than 1 gold, and it doesn't go much more expensive than 2 gold. But anyways, if you just imagine it was 30, and then I bought a whole bunch of it, then the selling price would go up to like 34. And so the reason that you would want to buy a bunch at a time is like to lock in the price, just like you do with stocks. So that's how this works. And then we can negotiate to get some money off of the whole thing. And let's see if I can pass. And I passed.
No.
Oh, because I have really high persuasion skill. Because I cheated.
Cheater.
Okay, so I negotiated that through my persuasion, and I now got 3% off. So now the deal is 193 gold. And so I can agree to that. And then what it did was, with my strength, I was able to store 24 items on myself, and then I put the rest onto the lady, the Yaka. And so if I had multiple animals, it will automatically put them in order from first animal to the third animal, just placing them. So you don't have to worry about all that stuff. But if you really do want to move things around, I can. Like if I didn't want those there, then I can move them over here. And you can't move more stuff than you can carry, Nick. I made the slider smart. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so that is how that works. Oh, you could sell back your draft animals. I realized that was a hole in the game. Was once you bought a draft animal, you had it forever. There was no way to kill it or get rid of it or anything. So now I can sell the animal. But she says she can't evaluate an animal that's loaded down with baggage. So I would have to sell all the stuff off of the animal first, and then I'd be able to sell the animal.
I was going to ask
yeah,
that
I saw you coming, Nick. Okay, so the pricing algorithms are all real in here for the demand and who's using what. So that's all good. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is if I go to the weaponsmith. Now, if I'm just start with this game, so here's the good stuff I was talking about before. So these are the good things.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
They're colored. They're colored.
So that's the good stuff, and then this is the common stuff. And so when I'm here buying it from her, I'm actually getting it at the same prices as if I had gone to the marketplace. And so she's telling me like, hey, common weapons are trading for 93% of their value. That's because I have a bunch of them. So even though it says here that the value is 42, if I buy this bastard sword, I'll actually pay. Oh, I don't have any money, so I'll just cheat. Okay, so if I go to buy this bastard, I only paid 38. And then now the pricing has changed. It's now 95%. So if I buy another one, now it's 98% because their stocks of the stuff are going down. Therefore, the price is going up.
Awesome.
So the reason that I put it here too is because I think a first-time player is never going to think like, hey, I need a weapon. I'll go to the market and the merchant will have, a spear for me to buy. Like, I think the very first thing will go, hey, I want a weapon. Hey, there's a weaponsmith, and I'll go and buy it. If all they saw was the masterwork stuff, they're like, boo, I can't afford anything, and then they'll think that they can't have a weapon. So I hooked up this common thing so that you can buy. This is exactly the same stock as the merchant has. It's just like a different view into it. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, now for the biggest feature of all. Time is passing, people are moving around, they're doing their jobs, and they now fulfill their desires. So there's a whole bunch of things going on in the simulator that makes this happen, and I'm in the inn, and I'm going to make time go forward. Okay, it's 3 o'clock, nothing happened. It's 4 o'clock, nothing happened. It's 5 o'clock, nothing happened. 6 o'clock, nothing happened. This game sucks. It's a boring day. What the heck, man? Oh, finally! Okay, it's 9 o'clock, and some people decided to go to the inn. And so these people are now here at the inn, and so if I click on it, I'll say, okay, who's here? This is the innkeeper, who I'm already talking to. And what's this person? It's a 16-year-old young man who's gambling. He appears to be a brewer. So I can now talk to him, and the game knows why he's here and what he's doing. And it says Reginald is gambling, and he waves at you. Hello! And so...
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's part of the new artwork. So let's just insult him. You son of cousins. Oh, he called me a goblin better. That is the worst thing you could call someone. You goblin better. So, people come and go from the buildings. Isn't that great?
That's great. Can you gamble?
Yeah,
Can
so the inn is now closed, and we go, and it opens up at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll see if anybody's there. Hey, there's people here at the inn. Okay, so she works here. And here's an unemployed guy eating, and here is a woman sitting. She's also unemployed. So what's really funny about this to me is I started to see some of the emergent behavior that we've been promising all this time, and it's starting to come true. And so what I saw was I just built in like, hey, I have this need for entertainment, and there's a list of things they can choose to do. One of them is going to the inn in order to fulfill that need, so they go to the inn. and then they pick something to do once they get to the inn, and they make these decisions to fulfill their needs when they have free time. And so because of the new AI task system that I put in, they have free time depending on when they start their day. So anyways, what happened was the mayor woke up at 6 a.m. He didn't have to go to work until 9 a.m. And he's like, hey, the inn opens at 8 a.m., so I'll just go there for a quick drink in the morning. So he went to the inn and he drank, and then he kept drinking, and he was late for work. And he showed up with alcohol in his blood at work. And I thought that was really funny. Totally emergent. I didn't even think that would happen. So those things are starting to occur.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's funny. So, can you? How do you see if he has?
You can't see it yet. I'm still working on this display over here. You can see it through the text is crossed out.
Oh yeah.
I'm still working on that. But you remember like months and months and months ago when we decided like, hey, we should have hourly turns, and the reason for hourly turns was for this reason here. Look, I just moved it an hour, and now there's only 2 people in the inn. Okay, and so if I keep going, they're gone now. They're off. They're doing their things. This is the fulfillment of why we went to hourly turns.
Right. For more drinking.
So more NPCs could have a tasty beverage before they go to work. That's what it's all about. Okay, I'm looking at my list of stuff to tell everybody, and I think that is the end of it. I mean, there's one thing I put here that's more internal. When I was adding tasks, and I would put them onto the task list, they would always go sequentially. And then I was like, hey, but if somebody's going to go to work at 9 and they're going to want to go drinking at 8, then there has to be like some comparison between the start time of a task and, hey, have some room between now and then. I can throw a task like at the front of it. And so I had this problem where I would say like, okay, go from where you are to the inn. Now you're at the inn, do something at the inn. Okay, you're done at the inn, now go home or go on to your next thing. Well, the first thing was going at the beginning of the queue, but then the last 2 things were going at the end of the queue because they didn't have the same start times as the first start time. So anyways, it was a big mess, and it took me hours to figure out what exactly was going wrong. And so I modified the engine so that now you can add tasks in groups. So you can create a group of tasks and say, okay, these things go together, and then you put it on, and then it will find a slot, put it in, and then they'll all stick together, and things will go in the order you expect them to. So it was a bunch of engineering that needed to go in to make the thing foolproof, and now I think it is.
Interesting.
Okay, well, with that level of excitement, I think it's time we say goodbye to everybody. Bye! Bye!